working on trying to get you in, Scott.
Okay, it's no big.
Meeting to order. Are there any additions or corrections to item 1.02?
Let me see. We removed the student discussion from the executive session, as we may have resolved that.
And didn't you add a name?
I'm looking, but for some reason it
5.02.
502, but there's for some reason the sticky that was on here is there. It is. It fell off. Resolution 5.02. The name was added. Lane Rawls was added. 5.02. Small orange sticky that had fallen off the paper. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone move item 1.02?
Move it. Second.
Move it.
And I'm a yes. Or is there any discussion? Any? Okay, and I'm a yes.
Okay, I can't view everyone, so if I call a name, please just tell me, Mrs. Griffin, that they're not on yet. Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo.
Mrs. Papalardo was anticipating she might be late this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the public forum. If you wish to send a comment or question to the board, you may do so utilizing our email, clerk@fulton.cnyric.org. You may find that also on the district website at www.fultoncsd.org. And that's also where you would go to find a logging on to this meeting. Item 1.04, please.
Move it. Second.
Any
Move it.
discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
and I don't believe Mrs. Papalardo came on yet.
I don't see her.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the upcoming meetings under the president's report? Mr. Cordone, I wondered if you'd like to report back on the resolutions meeting?
Sure, gladly. So the business meeting did occur last for NYSBA did occur last Monday, the 18th. And it did last approximately 4 hours, maybe a little bit more long. And all of the outcome of the resolutions pretty much followed the recommendation of the resolutions committee. There was very interesting dialogue, of course, but if you want to see a particular resolution, I believe NYSBA has made that available to us electronically.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Cordone? Thank you. And before we move on, I would like to take a moment. This past week, our community lost a former board member, Jean Wise. She served this board as well as represented us at the city board, which was BOCES at the time she represented us. She filled in a number of times when we had vacancies. She was very dedicated to the district. She was very dedicated to constructing our policies. Many years ago, she also served on the Oswego County School Boards Association. She was an officer for a number of years for that organization as well. Jean was everything you would want in a board member, very dedicated to the community, our students, and she was a wonderful person, and she will be missed.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to share, if I may, Ms. Griffin.
Yeah.
Last week, Ms. Griffin made me aware I did not have the privilege and honor of serving with Gene Wise, but we missed the obituary. We responded to the board earlier today about 2:30. We'll be flying in accordance with our policy where we may, and I think in this instance, we must. And we will be flying our flags at half staff tomorrow through Friday sunset. So I wanted to share that. And I've also responded to the constituent as well. We caught that early this morning because I said, I wonder when it is. And we realized that it had already occurred. And I want to thank that constituent for reaching out as well. So the board received a response I sent about 5 minutes ago. So thank you.
Thank you.
In her honor. Thank you.
And for the benefit of it, I did contact you as soon as I was aware. And
That is correct.
That
Yeah,
was
early last week,
was public.
reached out. We missed that. That's my office's error. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the meeting over now to you, Mr. Polvino.
Well, thank you. I'd like to start off this evening really recognizing a couple of recognitions this evening. Words can't really express the appreciation enough. Our Board of Education, this is Board of Education Week was actually last week. We would have been at the conference, would have been topping it off early this week. And just celebrating one time a year is not enough, but I'm going to read in something into the record. But I want to start by thanking this board. Over the last, I've had the privilege of serving 5 full years and now into my 6th year. And when you look back at some of the accomplishments that we've had and the ways we've persevered from our strategic coherence plan to the way we persevered through our pandemic and continue to work through, our board has been beside us, leading us right through this whole thing. Your guidance support is second to none. I've had the opportunity to work with, I think, 5 or 6 different boards since I came here, and I served others. And I will tell you, this is the board that I would serve. The Fulton boards have been second to none. So thank you for all you do. The New York State School Boards Association recognized October 18th through the 22nd as School Board Recognition Week. This is a time to promote awareness and understanding of the important work performed by our school board members. The Fulton City School District is joining, and we did join all public school districts across the state to celebrate School Recognition or Board Recognition Week to honor our local board members for their commitment to the city of Fulton and all of our children. And here's a quote that was in our news recently. It takes strong schools to build a strong community. And these men and women devote countless hours to making sure our schools are helping every child learn at a higher level. They make the tough decisions every month and spend many hours studying education issues and regulations in order to provide the kind of accountability our citizens expect. And then finally, you raise achievement in the work that you do by creating a shared vision for the future of education. You'll see our vision later this evening, once again, as we talk about our innovation aspect of our strategic coherence plan, setting the direction of the school district to achieve the highest student performance, providing accountability for student achievement results, developing a budget that aligns district resources to improve achievement, and supporting a healthy school district culture in which to work and learn, and so much more. We give the school board members, give the Fulton citizens a voice in education and decision-making. Even though we make a special effort to show our appreciation now, I can't extend my appreciation enough for the work and the service and the receipt of my emails in the middle of the night or 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I often get a quick response, just letting me know that you're out there. Thank you for all that you do for our kids and for our staff and this entire community. It's truly a privilege to work with you. So thank you. And thank you for your service. And then I just want to call out all of our members and just say thank yous to Robin Griffin, Brenda Abelgore, David Cordone, Tim Crandall, Lynn Lyons, Jennifer Mainville, Jessica Papalardo. Thank you for your service. You are truly the best 7 individuals that I could work with, and I truly enjoy working with you each and every day. So thank you. Next, school board, the recognition of our school nurses. Thank you for being here. I see a number of you here this evening. I can't say enough the work that you're doing in our schools. I want to personally extend my heartfelt thanks to all of our nurses for their commitment, dedication, and endless energy, to be the best health providers that schools have ever seen. You're going through things that no set of nurses has ever experienced. And, you know, you all know a little bit about my background, but I grew up in a health family, so I know what I have. I have a very special group of healthcare providers. I watch you, and I don't always tell you how much I appreciate you, but I know just based on seeing kids and seeing the work and hearing the work and all of the work that's going into, you know, we threw you a pandemic curveball just to make it more fun, and you've risen to the occasion. And I appreciate your openness and your honesty with us. And so I want to thank you for everything that you do. I had a little recognition I wanted to read in that we found, but the practice of school nursing began in the United States on October 1st, 1902, when Lena Rogers, the first school nurse, was hired to reduce absenteeism by intervening with students and families regarding healthcare needs related to communicable diseases. Here we are. After 1 month of successful nursing interventions in the New York City schools, she led the implementation of evidence-based nursing care across the city. And since that time, school nurses continue to provide communicable disease management, but the role has expanded and is increasingly diverse. And I just want to name some of the things. It's a specialized practice of professional nursing that advances the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievement of students. To that end, school nurses facilitate positive student responses to normal development, promote health and safety, intervene with actual and potential health problems, provide case management services, and actively collaborate with others to build student and family capacity for adaptation, self-management, self-advocacy, learning. And now we've added leading our healthcare efforts during a pandemic. I mean, it's truly astonishing. You wear so many hats in our settings. You provide care for minor illnesses and injuries. You give and supervise health care for our children with special health care needs. You monitor health screenings. You advocate for students. You participate on our multidisciplinary teams, counsel students, families, and school staff. You are caring. You are compassionate, especially concerning our children. And you care about our whole child, realizing that many factors affect our child's illnesses, and that injury or illness can affect other aspects of their lives, both at home and at school. I can't say enough what you do for our kids. You know, I get emails letting me know that you're dealing with a head injury, or you're dealing with a fall, or you're dealing with, you know, this and that. You're working with our families, you're working with our staff. I don't know how to extend my appreciation enough. You are essential in our district. You know, I often talk about the first thing that we have to do in our schools. They often ask, what's the first job of a superintendent? It's actually the safety and security of all of whom I'm working with and responsible. You are helping us with those basic needs, making sure that those basic needs are being addressed, those healthcare needs are being addressed, so that we can work our magic and all of the things that we're doing in the classroom. So thank you so much. And I just want to thank Angela Stoutinger, Robin Smith, Heather Russell, Jamie French, Alyssa Bush, Megan Helmer, Kaylee Maxim, Eileen Henry for all that you do and the teams that you work with. I don't know how to tell you more how much I appreciate you, and I know words are just words, but know from that they're truly heartfelt, and thank you for all you do. So thank you, nurses and everything. And I don't know if anybody has anything to say, or Robin or anybody. I know the nurses have other commitments. You're welcome to stay and enjoy the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you are an integral part of our buildings and our district. And I know that our students are beneficiaries of your expertise and your deep caring for their well-being, as is their families. So thank you very much. And I hope all of you know that you are valued.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next on the agenda this evening is our Siemens EPC project status. That's our that is our energy performance contract. We've been doing this for, I guess, a couple of decades. I think we're on our 20th year. The first one was just ending, our last Siemens project. And I'm going to have members from Siemens speak this evening. So if the Siemens team, John and Scott and Chris, you've got the floor, please.
Thanks, Brian. This is Scott. I'm the project manager on the project. Actually, Robin and I were just talking about how long Siemens has been associated with the district and what a great relationship we have. And it's really been a pleasure doing this work. And Al Crump has been really great. I just want to mention that before we get started. And it's been great to work with Brian and John and Chris. Do you guys want to say anything before I get started with the update?
Well, I always want to talk, but I'll talk very shortly. I just, I appreciate the district in right from the development. Chris and I were involved with this right from the ground up, and Scott now has been doing a great job on the execution, and it's, knock on wood, things have gone smooth, and we appreciate the opportunity to give you guys an update. If there's any questions as it relates to, specific project, scheduling, Scott's handling. If anybody has an overall question, I'm always available as well. And I'm excited to continue the relationship with the district, and we just want to carry it forward and do what's best for Fulton. So I'm going to turn it back over to Scott and Chris. I think Scott's going to go through the overview as far as where we're at on the construction, and then Chris is going to give you guys an update on the incentives and where we sit with that, because you've been working on that with the utilities. All right, so back to you, Scott.
All right, thanks, John. All right, so the way I'm going to go forward with this is I've submitted a slide, and I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not. If Gene,
I will actually attempt to display. So just keep going and I will do that.
Okay. Well, the way I'm going to present it to you is by facility improvement measure. It's basically the items of scope that we're performing for the district that are ultimately going to save energy. First off is lighting, which is the biggest portion of the project. The contractor's been great. They've really been moving along with this. And I'll go down per school. The high school, the junior high, Fairgrave, Volney, all of those are substantially complete, which means the work is finished. All the fixtures have been replaced with LEDs. And I call it substantially complete because the work is done, but we still need to walk through with the district to make sure, to establish a punch list and, make sure all the scope was covered that's in the contract. So the contractor's been great. They've really made great strides here. So all those buildings are substantially complete. At Granby, the contractor's in there now. We're estimated to be 80% by the end of October. And they're very conservative with their estimates. They'll probably be done at the end of October in Granby. And with all those, there is interior and exterior. And I'll say that the exterior is totally done throughout the whole district. So the wall packs on the outside of the buildings, the pole lights on walkways, things of that nature. The exterior stuff is all complete. So Granby's going on right now, and then Lanigan will start the second week in November. And also the exterior is complete there as well. And then administration work will be completed by the end of November. So lighting, which is the biggest part of the project, should be done end of November, at the very latest, the first week in December. So that's a huge part of the project there. Also, here, I see Brian does have my list up there. I did miss one on the list, which is kind of an important one, walkway lighting. The walkway between the high school and the junior high, that work is all complete now too. It was quite an undertaking with the rain we had this summer. It was mounting poles for lights, and yeah, it was a mess with all the rain, but that work is substantially complete. We actually just did some hydro seeding out there as well, and I see the grass is coming up pretty well. So that's walkway lighting. The stadium and tennis court lighting was also part of our project. That work is substantially complete. Robin was saying that she saw the lights, and they are quite an improvement. They're extremely bright, and yeah, they work great. And we've also there's a system with that where Al and his crew will be able to get online. There's an app that they can use to program the time of day for starting and stopping lights and the brightness of the lights and things like that. So it's a real nice system. It worked out great. I will say there was a couple fixtures on the tennis court lights that were originally pointed towards the parking lot at the high school. And somehow or other, they were missed in the design, and they were taken off the poles. And Al brought that to our attention, and we're working right now to get those lights back up on the poles. Actually, not the same ones. We're going to replace them with LEDs, and for some reason, that parking lot's a little dim, so we're going to get lights up there for that.
Yeah, when they built the gym in the back, just to give you a history, the small gym in the back, apparently a number of poles were removed at that time at the end, and we've been using ulterior other lighting to do that end of the parking lot off the tennis courts, which that explains. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rectify that situation so we have proper lighting. It got missed in the design because we weren't there at nighttime to see that, and we didn't catch that. So we'll make that adjustment as soon as possible.
Yeah, the contractor has lists and everything still on site, so it's really not a big deal. They anticipate to have that done this week, so
yep.
It was good. All that equipment is still there, and we can jump on that. Next on the list, then, building envelope. This is basically in every building in the district: door weather stripping, roof wall, interface sealing, exhaust fans on the roof to be resealed, and AC units, various units around the district were going to be resealed. And that entire scope is substantially complete as well. We've already started to do a punch list walkthrough with King & King and with Al Crump. And I think we got through a third of the buildings with that. And the contractor there did a great job as well. And there's very few punch list items for them to go back and fix. So really the building envelope scope should be done by probably the second week in November. They'll be 100% complete. I consider them like 95% right now. So that's progressing well. Another measure was HVAC control optimization. And basically that's taking the existing Siemens system and optimizing the software for start-stop functions for AC units and things of that nature. High school, Fairgrave, Lanigan, and Granby, they've been in, they've done all their field work, basically mounting sensors, temperature sensors in the field. And a big part of this one is programming. And that's all substantially complete. And early November, we're going to be in to show Al how that all works. We're going to commission all those for him and show him historical trending that's all actually working. So the work is substantially complete. We just got to kind of show Al how things are working. And also with the HVAC control system, the Siemens building automation system, there was a makeup air unit installed on the project, which we are starting up this Friday. And there's a controls aspect to that. So the controls guys from Siemens will be in with the mechanical contractor. We'll get that unit started up and commission the controls on that. And also, as far as the Siemens system goes, the boiler upgrades at Volney, they are also controlling that equipment. So that's all been started up, and the controls have been checked out. We're going to run through that with Al too and show him that all the alarming and all the nuances with the system are functioning properly. And there's also a graphics page for that'll allow his people to monitor the system to see alarms and things of that nature. All right, so that's the controls part of things. We did a boiler replacement at Volney as well. That work is complete. They've demolished the old boilers, which I was really struggling with. We put new boilers in. The manufacturer was in and did their startup. Things went well, and we're making hot water now. And the graphics and the programming is all in there with the Siemens system. So that system is up and running as well. Like I said earlier, that makeup air unit that was installed, that'll be this Friday. The mechanical contractors installed the unit. It's actually running now, but we're going to come in and do a startup on it and do air balancing and get that all taken care of. Next on the list, steam trap upgrades. Steam traps throughout the whole district. That work is substantially complete. They had 3 units that they couldn't get to, 3 steam traps, and Al was good enough to remove some sinks, and we have to take some block wall down for them to be able to access the steam trap. And that work is complete by Al's crew, and the contractor will be back next week to finish off that scope of work. So that's considered substantially complete as well. Pool cover replacement, that work is 100% complete and checked out, and the staff has been trained on that. They replaced the pool cover and also upgraded the controls on it. So the staff is using that now, and we haven't had any troubles at all. So that went well. We also are upgrading the cooling tower. We had to wait until the cooling season was over, obviously, with that. So now that we're out of that season, November 15th, the mechanical contractor will be in to install that. And we're anticipated first week in December to be done with that. Next on the list, auditorium lighting and carpet. There was 2 pieces, actually 3 pieces to this. The carpet is installed and the aisle lighting is complete as well. House lighting, all the fixtures are installed, and right now they're in an on-off state, so we can turn them on and off. They're all installed. But to get the dimming function to work so that it'll work with the theatrical system, Al is going to contract a separate job to upgrade the theatrical system, and there will be a dimmer rack that's installed on that, and we'll have to connect to that dimmer rack once it's installed. So all the work is complete. We just need to tie into that. And that's actually all the scope for this project. And like I say, Al has been great. There's been a lot of things going on in the district, and he's really helped out facilitating things for us. Before we move on to the incentives, anybody got any questions for that?
So I actually have one. I'm just wondering, and I thank you for giving us the update. But how is Siemens able to accurately assess or determine the savings in our energy costs, especially in this environment of inflation where we've seen the cost of energy go up so much in the past year, and it's projected to continue in that trend? How are you able to quantify? Are you able to explain that to us? How you're able to quantify the savings for us?
Yeah, we have a performance assurance group, that is in right from the very beginning in our development. So they understand. Chris was the energy engineer, and he'll talk here in a minute, but he put together all the estimated savings for the project. And this group will generate a annual report for you. And we're basically looking at, like, if you think of, we have a Siemens control system out there, and we have trending on everything. So we can see what improvements have been made and they will generate a report, that allows you to ensure that the savings are being met.
But they're actual savings and not just projected savings, is what you're saying.
Well, maybe Chris, maybe you could speak to that a little better.
Yeah, so we estimated, we calculate all of the savings for every single measure that Scott just went over, based on real parameters, logged data, actual set points and everything. And we stand behind the kilowatt hours and the kilowatts and the gas savings that we project there. And those are thoroughly reviewed by both the third party and the New York State Department of Education for their validity, and make sure everything's in line with all of that. And as I mentioned, we guarantee the savings in units. Unfortunately, we have no say or control over how the actual rates fluctuate. But obviously, if rates go up, it's better to be consuming less energy. So that's what we guarantee is the actual units of energy that are saved on the project. We did project in our financial projection an inflation rate on the utility rates, as those tend to fluctuate year over year. So we do have like a 2% rate inflation carried in our financial projection. But like I said, we don't have any say over obviously what the utilities want to set the rates at. So,
and just to add, your question was kind of around that. This John here. If the utility rates, like gasoline prices, go up, but your car is more efficient, you're actually saving more money because the units have gone down.
Right.
So if we save them, right? We save $1 million.
You're doing it by units, not the cost.
Yes. Yeah. Cost is, that's if we could figure the cost out, we would all be very rich, right?
Right.
So there's no real no crystal ball there that we have, but that's why SED and there's actually a SED reviews the calculations, the utility reviews them because there's quite a bit of incentives they're giving. So they look at every calc. And then there's a third party that was brought into this deal that reviewed those calcs as well prior to going to SED. So this has been reviewed from different angles. So that's really the answer. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question. On the traps that you had to replace that you couldn't get at, and they had to remove a sink and a brick and stuff, did you make provisions that next time it'd be more accessible, that we don't have to tear things apart to get at?
Yeah, I think with the original, the company that replaced them came in and did an audit and looked it all over, and of the, I think, 120, to have 3 left that they couldn't get at. I mean, that's pretty good, but traps are kind of weird that way. You can't see them all. You have drawings to go by, and I mean, I think it's within the realm of a reasonable amount. But moving forward, maybe to get Al involved up front, maybe that would help things a little bit. But just to have 3, I think they did a pretty good job.
So those 3, Scott, are they leaving the walls? Then are they leaving the walls the way they are so they can get to them in the future and test them? Yeah, I think that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we definitely are.
Okay.
Al is making decisions. When he puts that sink back, he will have an access panel back there, and also the one in the hallway where we're removing brick. We have a panel that we bought for him. It's a heat cover type panel that will give access to the traps when they need to be worked on.
Thank you.
Sure.
John, I have one quick question for the benefit of people that may be watching this now or later. If you could just do a brief description of what an energy performance contract is and why it's beneficial for us.
Okay, sure. So essentially what we set out to do is we looked at the district from a mechanical system, lighting, and on your electric side as well, so electric and gas mainly. And we looked at the measures that we're in, and we updated those measures to be more efficient. So what the state of New York allows districts to do is leverage an energy project, which is Article 9. That law was created in the early 90s to allow districts to get work done by leveraging the savings that improvement would create. So the restriction is the savings, the units that you're saving can only be leveraged over 18 years. So some of the measures may have real fast paybacks and other measures may have longer, but when you bundle them all together, you can't go any further than 18 years. So that is a program that again, works through Article 9, and then SED has their process that we have to go through as well. So you're just essentially leveraging savings to pay for the retrofit. Now, the uniqueness of that is Siemens, the company that executes the work, in this case, has to guarantee those savings back. So if we make an error in calculation and the savings aren't recognized, then we would have to make up the difference. A lot of the work that we're doing in schools is work that we do all the time. So we're pretty comfortable with that, these types of retrofits. And it's really what this team is built around, school type work. So the type of work that you're doing here at your district is really more basic to what we would see in schools: traps, lighting, some air handler work, some boiler work. So there was nothing real unique here, and it's gone quite smooth. And the other part of the benefit of the savings that's on the other side is utilities give incentives to those savings as well. So there's a financial windfall of money, because not only do you get aid, but you also get utility savings. So after the savings covers the cost, the aid and the utility incentives actually go on top of that equation for you. So it's a cash cow for districts as well. Any questions with that?
John, do you remember, I was trying to, I don't want to get off and look, but I was wondering, in the last project, we were just concluding around our 18 years, the cost of that project, we actually recouped more than the cost of the project, didn't we? Again, do you remember the numbers, or do you know those? Or we can provide those to the board as well as a future report. So
yeah, I don't. But the way the calculations are done is SED requires that the savings pay for the retrofits over 18 years, and then the aid gets put on top, right? So if it's $1 million job and you're at 80% aid, thered be $800,000 on top of the savings. So it drives excess cash. So in this particular case, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was pretty significant because it was close to, I think, $4 million worth of work. And then you get all that aid on top of it, plus your incentives. So it's driving a very rich cash flow to your bottom line, and it's all paid through via the savings.
Well,
but if you want, I mean, we could go back to the, we could maybe put a financial overview slide together for the next, board meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be, John, right? You send it to me and I can update the board, and then they can decide if we can do it publicly, or I could share it. But I think it would be good for the community to see that this is the EPC work here. And I had never had the experience until I came here in this role in Fulton. But this was, we were able to do a lot of work in a district that is often looking for financial resources that never would have been able to do, and they make huge impacts. They're not the exciting things, new lights, and you don't know, but you notice when you actually are in those classrooms, when you walk across this complex at night and hear people say, I can walk through here safely, I can see things at night. We've got a big crowd in the morning walking on that track at 5:30 in the morning. There's great impacts. Some things you see and others you don't, but boilers sound simple, but that is a huge impact to have boilers and can depend on.
And Brian, I've been involved since the very first one, energy performance contract. And again, you were right. We didn't have the money to go out and always make these upgrades ourselves. And these upgrades are also, it provides a safer environment, but also we know that our infrastructure is fairly modern and dependable. And that's really what's important, is that we know we're going to have heat. And the fact that it's more modern, we don't have to worry about looking for parts for some of the stuff.
In that final slide, you want to talk about the utility incentives, or did we cover that with the discussion? Because you had a few numbers on there. I didn't know if we wanted to
No,
just
I think
touch on
it would be nice I think it would be good if you're all right, just real quick, to let Chris go through, because there's a story here that I think needs to be said. So I want Chris to walk through it with you. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So dating back to the development of the project, we try to estimate the incentives the best we can. We had calculated and estimated $133,000 worth of utility incentives via National Grid for the project. We don't always take into account the natural gas incentives because it's a shakier program and they're not always available. When it came time to execute the project, I pretty much submitted on every single measure we had in the project and went through their screening, their eligibility program. They reviewed all the calculations. We ended up actually realizing just under $228,000 worth of energy incentives, all through National Grid. So we signed all those applications. We got them submitted. That secured the money. Just this past week, I submitted to them all of our project pricing information as we're nearing completion on everything, so they can process that. Some things they'll need to do a post-inspection on, but the fact that they have that financial information and they're starting to filter through it, we should see some payments start matriculating their way directly to the district. All these funds go directly to the district. There'll be all separate checks per measures application from National Grid right to the district. You have already received a check, probably going back close to a year now, for $18,000 for the boiler at the junior high school that we did prior to starting the project, as there was only one boiler there. So we kind of did that out of caution as kind of an emergency measure, just to have backup heat there for the building. So good news on that front. The district is going to realize about $95,000 more in energy incentives than we had originally anticipated. And like I said, that'll go directly to the district.
Well, thank you, Siemens team. One of the things, and if you've noticed, we've actually been doing all the work on the capital project, the EPC project at the same time. We've really been making sure, and here's one of my favorite words, coherent. We've really done it coherently, making sure that the work being done on the capital project side of all the work that we're doing is coherent. Everything's connected. And we're making sure that work complements one another and we can maximize. And it's really been a great partnership. And I look forward to the continued work, but to see how much has been completed, as well as what we've accomplished on the capital project side, and we'll continue to work on. It's been a good project overall, building and reinforcing our infrastructure here in the Fulton City School District. So thank you to Siemens, and I look forward to our continued work as we complete these projects to maximize our efficiency and opportunities for us. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Brian. And I just also, I want to say, though, the team that you assembled, the King, Carrie, and Michael, they've been, very supportive. And it's been really a full effort here. It wasn't two separate projects. We've been very integrated, and they made sure of it. And that, I think, has a lot to do with why it went so smooth. So on the front end, the development side of it, all that work that we did, and I remember, Robin, you coming to a bunch of those sessions. That's really what sets this job up for success. So I appreciate all that effort.
And hopefully, as we continue to open up, I hope our public is getting the opportunity to enjoy some of our things down at our complex. But as you get to see, your kids are already enjoying some of the new lighting and some of the other features in the schools and whatnot, and then some of the not so exciting stuff, but it's there behind the scenes, new windows and enveloping and whatnot. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time, gentlemen. Next is our strategic coherence plan update. Innovations. We're going to try a little different approach, so we're going to look for your feedback tonight. We're starting with the innovations section of our strategic coherence plan. Dr. Lisi and Principal Parkhurst. Mrs. Parkhurst, I believe, are leading this presentation this evening.
We are. Thank you, Mr. Polvino. Did you want to kind of get us going here and talk a little about our mission and vision and so on?
Well, sure. I can't ever give up the opportunity to speak a little bit. Again, our strategic coherence plan, and I mentioned it during recognition for our board, but our strategic coherence plan is our 5-year strategic plan. And, you know, the key word in this is coherence. And what you'll have on that, and the wheel is very clear. You start with a focused direction, and innovation is one of those target areas, and you'll hear more about that this evening. Then we cultivate the collaborative culture, the work that we're doing. We deepen our knowledge, our skills. And then that part of the wheel that I think is the most essential part is the securing accountability. And that's making sure that we have internal accountability. That means our board is asking great questions. It means we're looking at the data and we're holding ourselves accountable to the data and the high expectations that we have. And then the external accountability is when we start to have, you know, we demonstrate on whether it's state assessments or it's other measures of the district, whether it's financial, whether it's educational, no matter where we're being measured, this plan really makes connections to all those areas. And our mission and our vision are central, and I'm not going to read those this evening. They're right there. They're out and they're public and they're there. And the second slide really breaks out the coherence in our district. And it's really about individually and collectively sharing understanding of what it takes to develop a high-achieving school district. It's about coming together, collective commitment. It's deepening our understanding. I'm not going to read the wheel there, but it really focuses our work. And in the center is leadership. And I often don't really focus on that part. I focus on the wheel. But at the center, there's leadership at every aspect and every level of this district that's making this strategic coherence plan come to life. And so I thank every single member of this district and their commitment to the plan. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Lisi.
Thank you, Mr. Polvino. I really appreciate that. So Mr. Polvino had mentioned that each of these areas represent the district's priorities within our strategic coherence plan. So when I was going through the process of developing a summary of our progress in the area of innovation, I thought I'd post a definition or some deep philosophical description of what that is. But what I ran across was this simple, mildly humorous quote that sort of sums up what we mean in some respects by innovation. And so it says that the only tool you have is a hammer. It's hard to eat spaghetti. We think about that a little bit. It's humorous, but it really does essentially kind of make up is what we're trying to capture in terms of innovation. In other words, it's essential that we make the most of our resources and that we strive to find new, more efficient and engaging ways to achieve our mission and vision. Innovation is defined also by the context in which we apply it. What I mean by that is in the Fulton City School District, we're always seeking ways to engage students in learning and meeting the needs of our students and, of course, our community. Innovation is also inspired through vision, certainly necessity. The goal is to seek positive change through innovation and bring coherence to our work and our systems. What you're seeing in the video to your right, in a similar way, serves as inspiration for some of the work that we're doing to further engage our students in learning. The video shows the new Van Gogh immersive exhibit in New York City. If you haven't seen it, I would strongly encourage a trip there. This work was a result of artists, educators, technologists, entrepreneurs who were looking for a way to breathe new life into art, how we interpret it, how we view it, and of course to inspire greater appreciation for art. And in some ways, this was our way of looking at how we might also look at concepts like interdisciplinary work. How could we bring all of those things together? Given this example, we can imagine this as a model for creating new and exciting learning opportunities, spaces, experiences, and the potential for, of course, as I mentioned, interdisciplinary work. I would encourage everyone to view our strategic coherence plan on our website. It's on the main page in the very bottom, just really as a review. But just quickly, I'll review our strategic intents and goals associated with innovation. Essentially, in that area, our school leaders promote continuous improvement and growth mindset for all. And our strategies, just to go through this very quickly, to maintain and create a 21st century learning environment through innovation and technology, ensure the efficient use of district resources, and assure the effective use of district systems and personnel to maximize proficiency. I've asked Dan Sherman to talk a little bit about our first strategy. Dan has been instrumental in the development and implementation of technology in the district. Dan, if you wouldn't mind, could you talk a little bit about this area?
Absolutely. So, I would be remiss if I did not talk about our staff. Our staff really has stepped up to the plate to be innovators in their classrooms with their students. So they've really just stepped up to the plate, especially with the pandemic and all the situations that we've thrown them into. They've learned hard, they've learned fast, and they have begun to innovate in amazing ways. So in the far right corner, you can kind of see November 6th, 2020, our superintendent's conference day. One of the parts of that day that we really thought was very successful, as staff really liked, was open classrooms. And we just had our staff, who are experts, who are innovators, who have been innovating in their classroom, we had them show what they were doing in their classroom with technology, with their students instructionally, with SEL, and it was an amazing experience. And we have such amazing staff, and they're just truly innovative. And I kind of put a couple different things on this page here. We've got Pear Deck on there. That's one of the big innovations recently that we are coming out of the pandemic and virtual learning and finding it's very, very useful for our classrooms, in-person learning. In the bottom left, you can kind of see Seesaw, which is very new for our pre-K and kindergarten teachers. It's an online journaling system that is very accessible to our primary students, and our teachers are doing some amazing things with that, and having our little kindergarten students who are just learning how to read and write engage in their learning and use tools like microphones and video to kind of explain how they're learning and how they're accomplishing the standards in class. We also, you can kind of see right on there, we've got the drones program. Mr. Mainville is our drone expert here, and I know that Dom's going to talk a little bit more about that. But you can also see just, if you go through some of the other things that our teachers are doing, they're doing amazing things with engaging students through video, through audio components, and a lot of multidimensional learning. So it's pretty amazing all the things that teachers are accomplishing, and they're continuing to innovate.
Thanks so much, Mr. Sherman. Appreciate that. Great stuff. So, we're trying to maximize also our federal stimulus funds, COVID relief funds. We're trying to find the right name for that. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bovino, but so we've tried to reimagine our technology in our district-wide. And Mrs. Parkhurst, if you're with us here, would you mind sharing some of the work that's happening at GRB?
I'd be happy to. Did you back that up, Dr. Lisi? I think we wanted to make sure that everybody saw the video, that's a tracking.
Sure.
Just to be sure everybody understands what is happening in the photo, in the video.
Sure.
Active tracking.
We probably should add some context to this. Just a little bit. So if you don't know what's happening in the video, this is Mr. Mainville's drone class, and they're going through all of the parts and pieces and what they need to know to get their FAA certification. So you've probably seen the screen right now, it says the asteroid. That's one of the skills they have to learn. And the next thing was tracking, how to program a drone to track an object. So they were having some fun doing that.
Thanks.
Sure.
So I have the opportunity this evening to really highlight some of the changes that are going on in our technology department. Innovation is happening, throughout our district in many areas. So I'm going to focus on our technology department with some of the changes that we've been working on. We have and we continue to build many relationships with our community partners, and I'll mention a few of them this evening. Our tech team, teacher team, has a strong collaborative with the tech team at SUNY Oswego. Greg Bailey, our secondary interdisciplinary specialists, along with the team of teachers, are spending time with site visits, spending time on the phone, Zoom calls. They're looking at equipment and facilities that are being used currently with our practicing teachers, talking with the staff at SUNY Oswego. And you can see some of the photos on the left-hand side come from that department. Our team has also spent time at Universal Metal Works, a metal fabricator right here in Fulton. Again, looking at equipment and facilities and discussing how to best prepare our high school students for these types of jobs. In addition, as you know, we love to brag about our early college high school programs, and we do have 4 cohorts in the early college high school information technology program. So we've got kids, freshmen all the way up through our senior class. We have 2 cohorts in the health sciences program. So we can back up to slide 7 there. Pictured here up at the top, you can see students job shadowing at Oswego Health. We talked about that a little bit this past summer. And the upper right, you can see students taking a summer course at Cayuga Community College in microcomputer maintenance, literally taking computers apart, analyzing them, and learning about how, what does the computer look like inside. Okay, next slide, please. And this was quite exciting. You can see a project that our team created last year when we were at a loss for how to approach instruction in our hybrid schedule. Yes, this is a teardrop camper. The students, under the direction of Mr. Sievers and Mr. Greg Bailey, created this real-life camper from scratch, and it was amazing to watch this come together. And this trailer, this trailer inspired an idea in the late spring, for all of our elective area departments to coordinate currently this year. And that, I mentioned it recently, is the FCSD vending trailer. We are in the planning and initial construction phases of that trailer. We've secured the trailer, and now we are planning ideas for how to put that together to benefit our school and our community. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about the physical structures in our technology classrooms. I know you did have a chance to visit at the end of the summer, but we have certainly revamped that structure of each of the 3 classrooms. So on the left, you can see our construction room. Mr. Duval is a new teacher on the team this year. He works every day with students creating projects and usable space. And when I say creates usable space, it's truly a part of his lessons, how he is restructuring that room. We literally tore walls down this summer, and he's working with the kids on storage space, where to put things so that they're easily accessible, really mirroring a construction site. They're learning about various tools. You can see a few of them here. It looks like Christmas there. Although I did let Mr. Duval know that doesn't happen every year. Not to expect Christmas like that every year. And really, most importantly, we often talk to you about those soft skills needed for successful employment, really emphasizing with the students how to work productively together in teams. On the right, you can see a blueprint for our engineering and manufacturing room. We have state-of-the-art equipment that is going to be installed very soon that mirror exactly what you're going to find in our local manufacturing plants. You may recall a few years back, Mrs. Connors and I talked with you about some new courses that we wanted to add in the technology department. Engineering design is one of them, and manufacturing and automation, and those are both full-year courses in our technology department. They're project-based, hands-on STEM courses, and they do prepare our students for to attain what we call solid edge certifications, and they are certificates that are recognized in the industry. And And just finally, as I mentioned, Mr. Greg Bailey is our secondary interdisciplinary specialist. Interdisciplinary meaning he's tying all different departments together. And he is certainly playing a key role in not only how we're approaching instruction, but again, from more than one department. He's also working with our junior high team. That's why we say secondary, and how he's preparing our middle level students for the courses that we are building at the high school. Lots of excitement in technology.
Sure. Mrs. Parkhurst, do you want to talk a little bit about the vending trailer and how that may represent our interdisciplinary work and how we might have envisioned that to start with?
I can. The teams, the business, art, technology teams, FCS, they're talking about how they can market items, what it takes to sell, the communication, the PR end of things. How do you sell things in person? How do you sell things over the internet? We are talking about, for example, we had the fall festival very recently. Next year, we want the GRB or the Fulton trailer to be a part of that, with our students working right in there, selling various foods and apparel. And we want to be visible within the community, and we want our students to be really driving that initiative.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate that. One of our other strategies too was to ensure the efficient use of district resources. I think these desks are becoming somewhat famous, but I'll mention them one more time. So we were looking at, I should say, prior to the pandemic, the SCP had talked about creating engaging learning spaces for all of our students, and we started the planning at that point. And so we had a team that came together, and we visited another district that had gone through this already. And we were inspired by those learning spaces. And so we came back with lots of ideas. And of course, as you all know, the pandemic hit. It sort of put a halt on our process at the time and our progress. Fast forward, of course, the federal stimulus money kicked in, and we thought, well, what does that mean now? And what can we do to really change our space? And we learned a lot through this process as well. As you know, all of our students have their own personal technology. So the need for a larger learning space was prevalent. We also needed desks that could be moved around so we could create engaging learning areas and bring them together and so on. So in looking at what was available through our standard educational venues, as you might imagine, pretty expensive. And so this was our way of sort of thinking outside the box and looking at other opportunities to make this happen for our students. And so we now have all new desks and chairs that are also standing desks, so students can crank them up and stand up as well. In both our high school and junior high, those have all arrived, and those are being put together and put in place. So we're happy to see that happen. So that's an example of one of the innovative ways that we're trying to meet this particular goal and strategy. Third one was assuring the effective use of district systems and personnel to maximize productivity. And I'll talk about one of the samples here real quickly, is our use of communications. Again, just prior to the pandemic, we implemented a new general communication system. It's called Blackboard. And what that did for us was it centralized and standardized how we handle communication in the district. And our audio, visual, and communications person, Tim Wilson, who's here with us tonight, has really helped us bring this forward and change the way that we handle that with all of our stakeholders. I think folks probably have noticed that we certainly do communicate a lot in various different ways. Everything from our app to text to email to our website and so on. So we found that to be a great way to maximize resources and become far more efficient in the area of communications. And you can see there's other areas here too that we could talk about, and I won't go into great detail, but obviously we use Google in our education suite and we maximize that. We're doing a lot of work in systems and interoperability with HR and our business office and the systems that they use to find greater synergy in those areas. So we're excited to work through all of these processes to meet this goal as well. I thought we'd also talk a little bit about our federal stimulus funds and how they're being allocated. It's really important to note here, though, that although you see the percentages in each area, these are all overlapping. As you might imagine, innovation reaches out and is threaded through all of these other areas, just as instruction and leadership and so on and so forth are. But in targeted, innovative ideas, concepts, tools, and so on, we could point to approximately 36% of the COVID relief funds in the area of innovation. But again, that's sort of a gray area, but I'll give you some examples of what those might be. So approximately 4.1 million of the federal COVID stimulus funds are targeted, at least at this point, in these areas. We're looking at air quality improvements. We're looking, we talked about, Mrs. Parker has talked about the industrial labs and studios for innovative programs at GRB and the junior high. That also will extend into the elementary schools as well. We're looking at reimagining our science labs, our libraries, and other spaces as well. Our business and HR software improvements and so on, and also our obvious upgrades and updates to our classroom furniture. So with that being said, I also wanted to just really quickly thank all of those that are working hard to make this happen. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. For example, our business office, we use varied funding to make this happen. It isn't just the COVID stimulus funds. And I'll give you an example, just in my area alone of technology. We use BOCES aid, we use our own funding, the stimulus funds, smart bond money. All of this comes together, and our business office does a great deal of work to make sure that that flow continues to process and that those funds are allocated in the right area. Also, as you might imagine, our maintenance folks and the folks that work in our buildings were thrilled when I mentioned that 1,700 desks were going to be delivered and needed to be put together. They're very patient with us, and they do tremendous work in making sure that this can all happen. And as you know, our buildings look great, and I just wanted to call them out for all the wonderful work that they do. There's so many folks that do great work here, and I know Mr. Sherman mentioned the teachers and the tech department and so on. So I just wanted to take a moment to recognize them. And with that, I will turn it back to Mr. Palomino.
Okay, well, if there's two words that I hope you've seen this evening so far, two words that come across are capacity and sustainability. And we're constantly looking about what do we need to get addressed in the here and the now, but we're also looking at how can we look back 10 years from now and say, look at where we're at now. This is how we got there, and this is what's in place and how we've built upon that. So it's a very strategic, the way we're trying to do things. And as Dr. Lisi and Donna Parkhurst, as well as Dan Sherman talked about this evening, is that there's those coherent connections. And when you think about that wheel, think about the focus direction, the things that we're doing in the areas of innovation, the collaboration of so many different people to try to make this happen, and bringing people together in a coherent way, creating that collective commitment. And then that deepening learning, like what do we have to do to get this job done? How do we train? How do we make sure things are in place? And then finally, that accountability piece is what we're trying to accomplish getting done, and is making those impacts. And then we go back into that wheel again. So I hope you can see that he brought it to life a little bit. Are there any questions, though, this evening with respect to this presentation?
I don't have a question. I just want to pay my compliments to everyone. This is a lot of change. And first of all, my compliments to the thought processes that went into play to bring this change into our mindset, that this is where we want it to go. And secondly, the actual physical work that then takes place to make that change a reality. So my thank you to everyone. As you alluded to, Dr. Lisi, there's many people throughout the district that have a piece of this. And so again, it shows how well everyone works together. And I'm appreciative of that effort that everyone puts in to make things become a reality.
Thank
I have
you.
a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First of all, wow, like that was a lot of information, and that is just, we have a lot of great stuff going on, and I'm trying to take notes, and it's just a lot of great opportunities for our students. out of curiosity, we have all of these wonderful things happening, and you might have answered this as I was taking notes, but are all of these programs, are they going to be sustainable once we lose all of, or if we lose these federal funds that we have now, are we going to be able to sustain like the drone program, the use of all of this huge technology space that we have, and the equipment and the maintenance of the equipment? Because I know we have the money now and we're able to do wonderful things, but if something breaks down or maybe we don't have money, what do we have a plan for that?
That's a great question. So let me answer it this way. So we're very strategic in how we're allocating funds. So first of all, for example, the drone program is something we planned on prior to the pandemic, and we use our BOCES aid very wisely. We have a great aid rate, so that's something that we consider when we talk about sustainability. So for example, furniture, we know that's a long-term purchase. So the funds that we're allocating for our classrooms and the desks and so on and so forth, that's what we're targeting for these one-time expenditures or items like that. You know, our for example, our technology infrastructure, you know, it's always a goal to keep that up and to make sure that we provide safe and secure digital learning environment for our students. So we use E-rate for that, or we'll use BOCES aid, or we'll use funds of that nature that we know are sustainable. So we plan ahead for these.
You do plan it.
Correct.
That's great, because we'd hate to lose those things that so many kids seem so excited and happy to be involved in. And we talk about coherence and interdisciplinary, and we have a lot of elementary schools, and we're talking about Pear Deck and Seesaw and stuff like that. Are we all on the same page as far as elementary schools and what we use? I know we have a staff day coming up, and we usually have time to collaborate, between schools, especially the elementary schools. So do they have common language, and do they have, are they all using the same strategies?
Yeah, it's always a challenge to do that, as you might imagine, in a large learning community. We certainly try to do that. Our mantra has always been standardization, centralization of services and learning opportunities. All of our applications, for example, our learning applications, we provide professional development for them. We have a list of those that we offer and that offer and support. Dan Sherman does a great job in making sure that all of our learning applications or our tools at each level, that everyone's aware of them and how to use them. We have, and I would welcome folks to look at this, we have a fantastic technology-centered professional development site on our website that talks about the use of the various applications or tools that we use. So we do try to do that as best we can.
I know that there's a lot of movement with some students with, from one elementary school to the other, and just to be taught sort of, not in the same way, every student is different, but using the same methods and the same strategies, so they're not completely lost, going from one school to another.
As much as one can.
Yeah, what I would say, that's a great question. And as we go through the next 5 parts of the strategic coherence plan, you'll hear things like when you hear around the instructional literacy, and Dan or Jerry, you can pipe in as well. But you'll hear about our letters training. All of our teachers across all 4 elementary schools, letters training. That's the science, of reading. That's what that's all about, ensuring that consistency. The same access to different interventions and strategies. The same data networks where we're collecting and looking at that data, so we can actually look at data across schools and consistency. The same assessments being used to collect information. You'll hear about all of these things. So SCL using the same programs, across the different schools. So we're trying to create, I use the term sustainability and capacity. So the answer is, we're trying to buy all the infrastructure stuff first. And then as we get those extra dollars that New York State is saying we're going to get as they work with that formula, we'll prioritize Miss Mainville, because what I want to be able to say 10 years from now is we're going to say, look what we've got in place, and it's a part of who we are. And that's what we should, and providing those same opportunities. And who knows what those opportunities are going to look 10 years from now. we're drones now. Who knows what the technology will be 10 years from now or what we need in the classrooms. Dan or Jerry, would you add anything to that? But the idea is having that standardization, whether it's instructional materials and instructional strategies and supplies, materials, resources here's a great example. We have 17 different ceiling tiles in this district. We're going to have 2 when we get done with this. We will have 2. And the idea behind that is we can then buy in capacity and we'll actually save over time by doing standardization. It sounds so simple, but we're doing that with everything. We're really trying to create that so that 10 years from now, we will be able to be as strong or stronger than we are at this moment.
Can I just get you to back up for a second? Dr. Lisi mentioned E-rate as part of the financing, and I'm not sure everyone knows what E-rate is. So if you could just take a moment and explain the E-rate funds.
Sure. It's a federal program that provides reimbursement for connectivity for phone and our internet connection. We work through the Central New York Regional Information Center for that purpose. They also provide second level funding for infrastructure, for wireless access points, for our connectivity within schools, our data line, and so on. So we I think the reimbursement right now is about 80% of our cost in those areas.
Great questions tonight. This is what gets us and gets the information out to our community as well. I will say today I had the opportunity to be over there, and who's your new tech teacher, Ms. Parkhurst? He saw me, he says, you need to come to 103.
Mr. Duval, Nick Duval.
And he was, and then next thing I knew, the rest of the team was there, and they were showing me all the new equipment, and I got to interact with some of the kids, and they are excited. They're like, we can't wait, Mr. Palvino. So the kids' excitement, when you saw their eyes light up, it's pretty amazing. They're excited about what they're seeing and they're just waiting for the new stuff to come rolling in. So
maybe you can get us some pictures that we can share on our website so that everyone can see all the new equipment.
Yeah. We will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
You bet.
So with this strategic coherence plan, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Is that our goal as a district, to just be standardized and consistent and together, like across the district, like district wide? Is that our goal?
Yeah, a big part of the coherence is making sure we're creating collective commitment and thread everything together. I mean, I've always believed in standard of capacity and sustainability. I had been part of schools who were able to leverage resources, and then when the resources ran out, things disappeared. And then also, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, isn't it also with a mindset that perhaps even, especially with our elementary schools, that no matter which building our students attend, they all receive the same opportunities and experience curriculum?
Yep, it's absolutely true. In fact, Dave brings up a great point. When we started the letters, it was 9 districts, all the districts in this county. And the idea behind it was all of our kids, 95% or more of our kids, reading at proficiency benchmark and exceeding benchmark levels by the end of 3rd grade. And the idea was we had a lot of transition or transfers between school districts. So the idea was it didn't matter if you were at school district A or B. If you moved, you would be coming into a district that was similarly trained. I will say that I think Fulton has done a really beautiful job bringing it out all together. We've really been able to stay the course with it. We jumped all in on our letters training a couple of years ago. But Mr. Cordone brings up a great point. That's what it was about, was to create that consistency so that not only when teachers are coming together, they can talk about kids horizontally, vertically, across schools. So the idea is to create tight fabric. I call it coherence, but it's those connections, those collective commitments, those common understandings. So think about that wheel, focus, direction, cultivating collaboration, deepening learning, and then checking each other to make sure with that accountability piece. That's what makes us strong.
And it will also support us striving to provide equity to all, correct? With the new framework from the region.
Sure. Yeah, it's also ensuring that we're providing as equitable and as consistent as experience across as a district as possible.
And Jen, one of the things I can tell you from a couple of years ago when I toured classrooms with Brian throughout the district, it was very noticeable. And I kept marveling to Brian, the language is up on the walls, and it's the same. It's probably one of the first times I've ever noticed we have the same language going from building to building, grade level to grade level, and it was amazing to me. But there was even similar language that I saw as a thread that went up into our secondary level from our elementary level. So it is rather exciting, and it is relatively new to Fulton, and it was quite amazing to me to see that everyone was talking the same language. And to the point that I learned words I'd never known before, like fricative was a word I was never familiar with, but it was on so many walls in so many classrooms throughout the district. It's stuck in my head.
It also is a tool for our community. It's simplified things for them. And I think it brings the community together when they know exactly what is happening in each school, because they're all supposed to be the same. So I think it's been a good tool for our community.
If I could just add to, back in the day, and I'm going to bring myself back to when I was at Valney, we all had individual school improvement plans. So, years ago, we called these plans school improvement plans. And I can remember, we would each work individually on our plan, and then we would come together. And of course, Mrs. Connors and I always tried to one up each other. But, at the end of the day, we would often say, why aren't we just doing this together? So I can speak from experience that it's easier to do it together, and it just makes more sense than having 4 individual school improvement plans.
Good point. I was around for all those plans.
Yeah, and that's really exciting to hear, because I wasn't aware that we were using the same language and we were all the same across, especially the elementary. And Donna, I heard you speaking to bringing the junior high up to par with what you guys are doing. It's just so important that we're all I think that's great. That's a good thing for Fulton. Thank you.
Yep. I hope what you'll see over the next series and this is great dialogue tonight. I'm hoping that as we do the presentations for each one, you'll start to see how it all fits together. They are not separate. If you start to see separateness, that means we got a lot of work to do. So the idea is wow, you can see how this connects. Like Dom had mentioned back in the presentation, how innovation is threaded through all of the different areas, whether it's
the other noticeable thing as an outsider is the fact that there's much more conversation now between all of our buildings at all levels are conversing today, where they weren't when I first joined the board many years ago. I mean, they're having rich conversations about what each of them are doing. And I think there's been conversations where actually the secondary level has reached out to our elementary buildings and said, this is what we need. This is what our kids need in order to succeed when they enter at this level. And we've closed some of those gaps about what people thought kids needed to know versus what we need them to know, and what we are making sure that they know. And I'm probably not saying it as well as Mrs. Parker's could say it.
Or Dave.
So what I would say is obviously there's going to be some great opportunity. And I think what's really exciting is I knew the strategic coherence plan. I had seen it coming to life. You could hear the language, the vocabulary, but now we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. But it also kept us strong during the pandemic. And you can see really when we had the money came through the federal stimulus, we could just write to our plan. We went right to our plan every time. And I think it's gonna provide us that anchor that's going to lead us down the road. And obviously, we're getting to the point where we're going to have to start. Where does it go next? What are those next things that build onto these foundational pieces well into the future? So I think tonight was exciting. You got to see some of the things that are going on in our district, and I think it's a great place to start. And then what we're going to hear in future is you'll hear each aspect of the plan over the next 6 to 8 meetings. And that'll prep us perfectly. As I always remind us, we're already in budget season. We're already starting to think about, and it goes to Jen's comment earlier, budgeting is year round. We're constantly thinking about how we're going to maximize, how can we use those dollars, How can we leverage BOCES, COSERS, so on and so forth. So there are advantages to being a small city and also having some wealth issues, being one of the poorer districts in the region. It allows us to leverage things a little bit different. At the same time, we have to. And but I think that also makes us stronger. We're constantly looking at how we can get better. So our staff's been amazing through us. And I've learned that in the input, you're starting to see more and more input too. People are getting great ideas in there, and we're putting those on the table to figure out better ways to do things. So exciting things to follow. I'm looking forward to our future presentations. Are there any further questions, or we'll move into the next presentation or update, actually? All righty. Our financial update and our school tax collection update. Mrs. Nichols and Dr. Lisi, if you'd like to do this part, please.
Sure, Mr. Carroll, were you going to throw it up there? Do you have that ability? Or? Ms. Nichols, it's all you.
Kathy, is your volume on?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I was trying to be quiet over here. All right. We're starting to use again Forecast 5. So this is the result through September. Again, on the left-hand side is last year, and then on the right hand would be the current year. Just to point out on the revenues, where it looks like we have a lot of local money right now that remember that we book the tax levy at the end of August. So that's the full dollar amount of the tax levy. And that's why we did the separate report on what's been collected to date.
Yep.
Let's see, under just something to point out under the expenditures, the salary number looks a little bit higher right now as we're waiting for the ARP federal funds grant to be approved, at which point we'll move some salaries into that grant. So the salary number might be just a little bit overstated in there. Otherwise than that, it looks pretty much in line where we were at last year at this time, and not expecting any I mean, the budget looks good right now. So did you have any questions when you were looking at this report? Dr. Lisi, anything you'd like to add to it?
No, it's looks right to me.
Okay. So the plan is that the second meeting of the month, we had started this type of approach last year. So at the second meetings of the month, you'll get the report in this fashion to let you know exactly where we're at that point in time. So again, this kind of goes back to one of those parts in innovation. If you remember, WinCap was on there. This is another piece of software that we're using to help us really do projections and keep an eye on things in a different way. So this is a format that seemed to work for the board last year. So let us know if you would like further information or if this is working for you. So thank you. Can you put up the tax collection one too? Want to go over that report as well for the tax collection update. 'Tis the season. Just ended last week or so with that first collection period. So Ms. Nichols and Dr. Lisi.
All right. Our treasurer puts together this report. It's from our new software, which by all reports is working pretty well. And this is just showing collection through, I believe, yes, she has the 19th of the month. The collection period ended on the 14th. So it, again, just shows what our warrant was. And remember, the original warrant is different than the tax levy because we take out the STAR reimbursement that we expect from the state. So that's booked separately. This is the funds that she's collected so far. One thing to note here is that we're now accepting credit card payments or online checks. That does not cost the district any money to do that. The person, the tax paying payer, is responsible for any fees. And as she noted, there 78 people took advantage of that option. So she has a couple other little notes there that 60% of the online payments were for the full payment, and they totaled over $102,000. So it looks like an option, again, a little more innovation here, an option that's helpful to some people who are perhaps out of town and makes it easier to make the payment. Overall, our collections were $10.5 million, and we did not have the same report last year at this time, but just looking back, I compared what it looked like our receivables were at the end of both at the end of September and October, and we're pretty much in line with the same, collecting roughly the same percentage. Are there any questions on this report?
Ms. Nichols, you said that the taxpayer takes the fee when they use the online option. Do you know for the tax people out there who want to take advantage of that, what's an average fee that is on top?
Dr. Lisi, do you remember? I think it was about 3% of the bill. So it's a percentage of the bill.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
We can get clarification from Mrs. Hayden tomorrow. But I believe it. I thought it was I thought it was 2.2%, but I can ask her. Normally, I'm pretty good with that. We will confirm that and let them. We will inform the board in our board update, and we can share that actually publicly at a next meeting if you'd like as well. But I think it's a great opportunity. It's something we hadn't tried before. The other piece I want to draw attention: in a small city, we have a second collection period. Mrs. Nichols, we continue to collect through when?
We collect right through. It's the first week in April. I believe it's April 5th. But many people take advantage of just making a half a payment in this first collection period, and then they have extra time. The central school districts, if you're not in a small city, they have to pay their complete bill during the month of September. So it is a little bit of a benefit being able to stretch those payments out.
Yeah, I'm glad you drew it. You were thinking what I was thinking. I was hoping you'd bring that up. That we're a little different than a central school district where you pay your taxes and that's right in that shorter window of time. However, in ours we have the double. So that's why when you put up X amount of dollars that we've collected so far, we have a longer window in a small city school district. So that's what I believe. It's 208 days long, I believe. So it's a very long window.
Out to.
Are there any questions about either one of the reports just provided? All righty. And finally, the COVID testing update. Not a lot to share on top of what I shared last time, although we're very close to. We've started, actually, we have 3 cases of pool testing that arrived out there today from Affinity Ashore. We're still waiting on other components. They kind of come in. So it's good to see things starting to arrive right outside my office here. The ID Now, that's our pool testing approach. Once we get information and really get tight and get a timelet, we'll be able to get that out hopefully in the next couple of weeks at the max. The ID Now, the purchase order is in. They're waiting on some agreements and things like that. That's if you have any symptomology, we can provide the ID Now, which is a molecular test. Similar to something they may use it if you went to one of the local pharmacies to get tested, that type of thing. So that'll be an opportunity that'll be available to our families and our staff. Unique. Hopefully that will help us with our return to work and return to school. That's the idea behind that. If you remember my multi-pronged kind of that capacity sustainability, it's better to have a couple of irons in the fire getting things done. And then the third part is the Binax Now, which we ordered back in September. Still haven't received anything from the state. That's the 15-minute rapid test, antigen test. And so we're also, I actually got a call today, and the Oswego Department of Health has accessed through another county. So I did put an order in there today. And that apparently is up here in the region somewhere. So that allows us a different type of assessment, or a test. So we have a number of things going on as we move forward. So that's what's going on with the testing. As soon as we tighten that up, we'll be able to get that out. We're getting very close, because once the orders are in, you really realize the supply chains and all of the different dynamics. And I've learned, and our nurses would appreciate this, I've learned more about healthcare than I ever thought I would learn as a superintendent. As far as all the different testing and all the different components that go into this process. Not something I thought as an educator I'd ever been dealing with. So, but again, learning, and I think we'll end up with a good program once we pull things together. So my team will be getting together as part of our meeting tomorrow, and this will be one of the topics, right? Mr. Els and Ms. Geithner and Mr. Carroll and Dr. Lisi, right? So we're getting close. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. And again, I just want to extend my thanks to our Board of Education for all of your support, dedication, and commitment on behalf of our kids in this district, and our nurses as well. Thank you for everything that you do. Ms. Griffin, it's all yours. Thank you.
All right. Would someone move item 4.01, please?
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? And I'm a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
and I don't believe Mrs. Papalaro has joined us from what I see.
I haven't seen her either.
Okay.
Okay. Item 4.02,
Move it.
Second.
any discussion?
Just a point of clarification, when we have students participating from other school districts, are they to adhere to our code of conduct or theirs, or both?
Mr. Els, can you answer that question, please?
It's a little bit of both, Dave.
So we work with both districts. It's kind of a
Correct.
collaboration, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's a collaboration that we work on that. Both code of conducts are very, very similar with the districts that we're competing against.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any discussion for item 4.02?
What do we do with all of these items that are being discarded from? They look like they might have come from that project, perhaps, that you guys were just going through doing over at the high school.
I can take this one. So they're being auctioned off through a municipality type auction service, and then we receive the funds from the proceeds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
Item 5.01, please.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Item 5.02.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Item 5.03, please.
Move
Move
it.
it.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? It's nice to see so many districts come together. I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Item 5.04.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, can Brian just highlight any revision for the community to know?
Yes. Right here. Of course, I just moved it. We made, I know it's right here. There it is. Yeah, we made an adjustment. We discussed at the last meeting, putting forward, and then it's for vote this evening. We added a half a day early dismissal for K through 6. It's to focus on our conferencing, parent-teacher conferencing. And so it's an early dismissal for kindergarten through 6th grade on the 4th of November and on the 12th of November for K through 6.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
I wondered if my colleagues would be interested in batching items 6.01 through 6.06 personnel items.
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Any discussion on any of the items? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
Item 6.07.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Abstain.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
I wondered if my colleagues would be interested in batching items 6.08 to 6.13 to complete the personnel items.
Move it.
Move it. Second.
Is there any discussion on any of these items? I am a yes.
Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. We are now at board forum, and I wonder, Mr. Crandall, would you like to start us this evening?
Oh, sure. I'd like to thank everyone for their presentation. Siemens report looked good. We're getting there. And that's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Mainville.
I would like to thank the school nurses for everything that they are doing to help move us through this school year, because I know it's a lot and it's a lot of hard work. And it was really great to see all these wonderful projects that the kids are working on, and the collaboration that they're having together with all the interdisciplinary work that they're doing. So that was fun to see, and I hope that continues too. So thank you for that.
Mr. Cordone.
Yes. Like Robin, I want to just express my condolences to the family of Jean Wise. I had the pleasure of serving with her on the board at various points that Robin described, and she was an asset. Certainly committed to her service, and she'll be greatly missed. I also just want to ask in relationship to that. I know when we were on our building tours in August, the end of August, that the flagpole at Volney had been missing. I think through the project it hadn't been reinstalled, and the one at the junior high. So I'm just wondering if we will know when those will be, the new ones will be put in place as part of that project.
The junior high one is up. And Dom, I think the Volney one, the last meeting we had, was it still on order? I can't remember. I think there was a back order.
Order for the Volney pole.
Right. Junior high is up and been used, and we're waiting on the Volney one. It's been held up in the supply chain. So
okay,
that's where we're at. Yep.
Thanks for that update.
You're welcome.
I like Mrs. Mainville. I want to thank the nurses, because I know that the nurses I work with in my building are on the front line. They're, informing parents when students have to go home for quarantine, and that's not always received well. And they're just they're delivering news that not every parent wants to receive. And I'm sure that they have a rough time of it and a lot to keep track of with all the quarantine. So I want to thank them as well. I also appreciated the updates, and that's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Abelgore.
Yes, I, like Mr. Cordone and Miss Mainville, want to thank all of our nurses. They're fabulous. I can't imagine being in the job that they are doing through these last 18 plus months. But we couldn't be where we are without them. So thank you very much. It's also my pleasure to be working alongside my colleagues. So happy School Board Appreciation to you all. Thank you for serving with me. And I continue to look forward to all the work we have coming ahead of us this year. And I also wanted to do a little shout out to Mr. Waldron and all of his wrestlers. I've been seeing that they've been doing some work around the community, helping stacking wood and doing different odds and ends for community members. And I think it's great to see our student athletes out there doing some extra good around the community. So I just wanted to throw a little shout out. We see you. And other than that, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lyons.
Okay, I guess I'm going to start with the question. Can we offer people to, if they have a question for comments at the beginning of the meeting, can they email them in priorly to the meeting so we can hear them read? I wondered if that was something that could be done.
I don't know about managing that if we were to get a lot. So here's my fear. It's not that I'm opposed to it, but if we should suddenly get inundated, how much time do you folks want to spend reading?
Well, the thing is, like, if we get any, I don't know that they're shared with us now. So
yes, they come in through clerk. Everybody gets it at the same time.
Is that something that could
we have that on
the community?
Lynn, I didn't. 1 second, Dave. Lynn, what did you say?
So really, we have had none since we've done virtual.
Yeah, we've had a few, not many. We've had a few, and typically, if we're in public, people come to the podium if they sign up and they ask their question, and typically the question is turned over to the superintendent. We don't typically answer them that night.
Correct.
I mean, there's a time issue in order to move along and conduct the business. So my question is, we can read the questions aloud perhaps, but I would like you, and David just raised the question, is the policy committee maybe could talk about it and hash it out and think it through, because this is on the fly and I don't like to do that either. This is not a good format to do it in.
No, it's fine. I just thought it would be something we could think about.
Yeah.
And to add to that, and I really appreciate the conversation. Sorry to interject on Lynn's time, but this is one of those policies that really is the board's to design. It's not one that would go to the committee, to my experience, because it really is the board's agenda. So perhaps the board needs to have a conversation about that policy. Does that make sense?
I think the board can do that, David. I was just wondering if you want the input from people who would be likely, like the students and community members, to get their say into our board representatives, and then they can bring it back to us and we can hear all of it.
That makes sense.
That was all my thinking, was just trying to make sure we were inclusive.
Yep, I agree. Good point, Lynn. Thank you.
You're welcome. I also wanted to talk about the conference, the virtual conference that I attended yesterday. It was wonderful. I learned an awful lot. I think we're going to talk about some things that were brought up there. I also sent back a comment that I enjoyed the fact that I could sit in my own home and listen to it without a lot of people around me. So I did enjoy the virtual aspect, and asked that if maybe they could think about doing both live and virtual. So I wanted you to know that too. Great presentations tonight from Siemens. I really like to know exactly what we're doing. I like the public to know what we're doing, and they overviewed it very well. Thanks, Dr. Lisi, Mrs. Parkers, Tim, Dan. Just so grateful for how we're moving forward with education for our kids. Doing such a wonderful job. I mean, I can't thank everybody enough. The nurses, I don't know what we would do without them. I had a child that had some issues years ago, and if it wasn't for the nurses, I don't know if she'd be alive today. So I really thank them a lot. Let's see what else I got. Oh, I want to give a shout out to our varsity volleyball team. I have read that they're doing an outstanding job, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And again, my thanks to our nurses. They're doing an outstanding job under very difficult circumstances. I also want to take a moment to thank our families. The vast majority of our families have been patient throughout this difficult process of dealing with the pandemic. And as I've read about other places that aren't having such good times sometimes with the communication, our families have been pretty respectful, and it's greatly appreciated that folks remember that people are just doing their job, even though they may be delivering news that no one wants to hear. So I am grateful for the understanding given to our employees. It is very hard for them. And so if we can all take a breath, I think we're doing a pretty good job as a community with that. And again, thank you, community, for that. I just wanted to say that I am very excited about much of what I learned yesterday. The virtual convention was very informative. I learned a great deal, like Mrs. Lyons, and I look forward to how we can put that knowledge to use moving forward. I'm grateful for the opportunity and grateful that NYSBA is there to provide us with opportunities to learn so that we can perform better. And like Mrs. Abelgore, thank you to my colleagues for your service. It's greatly appreciated. And that comes from the bottom of my heart. And lastly, again, Jean Wise, this is really an appropriate time to remember her because she did give so many years of dedicated service to our school boards, our school board organizations. And she also was wonderful at always attending opportunities where she could learn more to help move the district forward. So she is a good example. And again, she will be missed. With that said, would someone move item 7?
Mrs. Griffin?
Would we be able to listen from Reagan?
Yeah, I was going to ask Reagan. We got to hear from our student this evening. I missed her on the screen too down there. She's on the far left corner. Hi, Reagan.
I didn't see you, Reagan. My apologies. And a shout out. You got to holler to me. Thank you, Mr. Polvino. Reagan.
Thank you. I also would like to thank everybody that gave updates and reports. I also want to thank the nurses and all of the board members. Your dedication and hard work is noticed and really appreciated by students. Also, I would like to comment on the fact that last week there was the Student Advisory Committee's first meeting. It was a really great experience. It opened up conversations and gave more information to all students about what each school was doing. It gave students a chance to share their voice, and it really was just a really good opportunity. And that's it. Thank you.
Reagan, thank you for sharing that because we don't hear a lot about that unless people that are participating give us a shout out about it. So it's good to know that you're finding it worthwhile. And I hope that the rest of your peers are also finding it a worthwhile endeavor with their time.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
And thank you for your service.
Of course.
And Molly, thank you for your service in learning and preparing for next year. All right. And again, my apologies, Reagan, that I didn't see you on the screen and I missed you. I didn't mean to do that. You should never be missed.
It's
Better
okay.
check
No
to make sure Mrs.
worries.
Capillardo's not here.
The last I checked, did anybody check recently? I've been trying to keep up with that. I haven't seen her. Mrs. Pappalardo, if you're here, give me a shout. All righty. Would someone move item 7.02, please?
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm a yes. I don't know if Ann is there. Ann?
Oh, I think she's muted.
Sorry. Mrs. Abelgore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
All right, and we're going to take a 5-minute break. And after a 5-minute break, the board will then go into executive session. When we complete our executive session discussion, we will come back out of executive session to close the meeting. I thank those of you that are watching this evening, those of you that participated. Special thanks to everyone who came to the meeting tonight to share information with us. That's always appreciated by the board. And I hope you all have a good evening and a great week. Take care.
Robin,
Yes.
a while ago. You probably won't, only a few of us will recognize this name. Eddie Flumdum.
I do know the name.
Toy
I
shop.
do know the name. Yes, I do. I absolutely do. But I did not realize that he had also passed away. This
94.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. He had a good run. Good for All right, we're back in public session. And